What's up, everybody? It's Troy. I hope you're doing fantastic. I want to talk to you about an important topic today, and that's about how to be happy right now in this moment. And this is something that was a very real reality for me, and I want to tell you this through a story that I think you will be able to relate to. And by understanding some key concepts here, I believe you can start to integrate these in and literally start to increase your happiness. And as you increase your happiness, in the moment, it creates a magnetic energy, and life really just starts to unravel for us and pull towards us. And that's what we want. We want to work with life, not against it, right? Work with life and allow it to pull in towards us. But let me take you back to when I was in my early 20s, right? Actually, a little bit before that, graduate high school. I didn't really want to go to college, but again, there was that social pressure. Timmy's out there going to Yale, and Susie's out here doing this. And so I was like, okay, I'll go to college. I go to college and just fail miserably. Don't want to be there, not enjoying it. I didn't really even like high school or any of the other schools. I liked the social aspects, and that was about it. But so what happens with that is you get feedback, right? So I get this feedback of like, oh, I'm not very smart, I'm not good enough, which is placated on some previous woundings I had already carried. And fortunately, in some instances, I decided to kind of morph that into understanding about business. I felt like that was something, for whatever reason, started to speak to me. And at the same time, I became a personal trainer. Very lucky that I found that, because I was just floundering. I worked at like Costco at the gas station and just would sit out there and just fucking dink around and not do anything. But for some reason, someone kind of pointed me the direction, becoming a personal trainer. So I go down that road, become a personal trainer, and really enjoyed it. In the beginning, it was like fresh and new, and I just could train. I could train people and enjoy that part of my life, and was having fun, making some okay money. I got to have the weekends off. It was fantastic. But then I started getting this like, dynamic of I had to prove myself. I had to be somebody. I had to be something, right? And so I started working more and more, and I created this vision to build this gym. And I ended up doing that, right? Not to just jump right over that. That was its own very challenging process. So I create this gym. It was a personal training studio back when those like weren't really a thing. Like people used to come in and be like, what is this? Where's all your equipment? I'm like, oh, we don't. We move and we use functional training, and it was really cool. And I was kind of at the front of the spear as far as that goes. And so I got my own business now. And then the next thing was like, okay, I have to like expand this business. And so I do that. I end up acquiring the unit next to where my little studio was and expanding that. And then it was like, oh, now I have to speak. I have to write for the newspaper. And I was just doing more and more and more. And, before that, like I was working at Costco at the gas station. And then fast forward like 4 or 5 years later, and I have my own business. I'm in my mid 20s now. And like, life is pretty fucking dope. But I wasn't happy. Like I still wasn't happy. I still had to do more and more, right? And I start even doing more than that. I start pushing the bar further. And I end up getting another unit on my studio. And then one day I remember, like, literally, I remember this. I wasn't feeling that happy. And I was like, you know, I bet you it's because of this car. Like I have this car that's just kind of this old used car. I'm gonna go get a new car. And I went out and I got a BMW, right? And at first, like the first few days, it's like, oh, dude, this is cool. And I'm not joking. Within 3 weeks, it was as if I was driving the same car that I had before. It made no difference to my happiness. Nothing. And so, I was always like pursuing something else, but never in the present moment, never truly enjoying what I actually had. And I remember thinking like, okay, now what's the next thing I got to do? What's the next thing I have to do? And, fortunately, sounds weird to say this, but fortunately, I ended up losing all that. I talked about this in the previous video, right? Recession hits, end up losing everything. I had purchased those units where my studio was, lost all of those, had a condo on the golf course, lost all of those, had my car repoed, BMW gone, only had like $3,000 left to pay on it. That's gone. So I had built this like empire, right? And I'm literally like in my mid 20s, and I had built this empire, lost it all. But the important thing here to understand is that even though I had so much of so much stuff, I literally was not any happier than when I was just training and making a little bit of money and having fun and getting to go out on the weekends. nothing changed. In fact, I would say I was less happy because I had more stress, a lot more responsibility. I was just like a slave to these things, right? And stay with me here because I want to bring this into, some key concepts that are really going to help us understand how to unpack and see like and feel more happy in the moment. So after that, right, complete like devastation, I'm face down in the dirt, right? Through that period, I ended up meeting somebody, getting married, started to have children, and life kind of progresses. I'll save you the details, but we get to a point where we're renting this house, and I've got kids, but I'm still unhappy, right? I wanted to like create more. I wanted to do these different things, and in psychology, it's called like cognitive dissonance, right? Where we have this goal of what we believe we should be or where we believe we should be, but then we have the reality of where we're at in the moment. And the distance between that is what creates the unhappiness. And so I had this vision of like where I wanted to be, what I should be doing in life, but I wasn't doing the things that it actually took to get there. Okay. And so I remember like one day finally getting to this place. And this is the key right here, right? This is super important. I remember saying, all right, dude, like just stop right now. Like I haven't been happy in fucking 10 years, right? So let's stop right now. And I remember saying, I'm going to learn to be happy right now, where I'm at, with everything I have right now. Okay. Like as an example, renting a house, had 3 kids, like they're like babies at this time, 3 kids, renting this house. But in my mind, I was like, oh, I should be living like, in these beautiful pastures where my kids can run around and do all these things and ride horses, right? This fantasy fairy tale, okay? And if that happens, and if you're experiencing that, fan-fucking-tastic, awesome, right? But if you're not, maybe you can relate to this a little bit, right? So I'm like envisioning this place where I should be, right? Remember, if you're shooting all over everything. You don't want to shoot all over stuff, right? So I'm envisioning this place where I should be, but I'm actually over here, okay? And I'm experiencing the distance between those two states, and it's creating unhappiness. So I started to go inward and go, all right, dude, I want to be happy now. And the key medicine here was learning to start to be grateful for what I do have. So I started just to unpack the things that I do have. I have this, I have this. And the way I did this was I embraced and started working with an actual gratitude practice. I still do it to this day. And so what I did is I have a journal, and I started writing 5 things that I was happy for or grateful for every day. And I'd write it like this. I'd say, I'm grateful for this because, right? Like I'm grateful for, my house because I have a roof over my head. I have warmth. I have an air conditioner, right? I have a place that we can call home. And it started to change my perspective. Okay. So slowly it started to change my perspective. And I remember, and this is really important, I think maybe you guys can relate to this too. I was talking to a friend recently who is like using the same language that I was using back then. Because I used to talk about like, I want to move. I want to go somewhere. If I was somewhere that was more green, if I was somewhere that, there was better connections there, then things would be different. If I was at this place, things would be different. It was always me leaving to go somewhere else that would create the solution. But I didn't have like the financial means at that time to actually do that. So I was stuck right where I was at. And I'm going to bring this full circle because I'm grateful I ended up staying where I'm at. And I'll tell you why that's important. But I really was, in this place where I started to understand and appreciate everything I had in the moment. And so I'm working with gratitude. I'm learning to unpack. At the same time, I started to unpack a lot of my traumas, a lot of the weight that I was carrying from the past, a lot of the density. That's what happens when we carry a lot of trauma from the past. It become dense. A lot of the boxes that I had created in my mind, a lot of the victim mentality that I had created. I had created this story where I was like, oh, I had been through so much. No one can relate to me. When you do that, you have walls, defense mechanisms, and you're not letting anybody in. Like I'm naturally fairly social, and so I had a lot of connections, but I remember looking like I didn't actually have anybody close. No, I wasn't letting anybody inside because I was afraid of getting hurt. And so as I sat with these energies, started to heal these wounds, started to increase my gratitude, my entire life started to change. And all of a sudden, like things got a little bit brighter. Opportunities started to change for me. Like I went from a moment of having my own business, having all this stuff, to I ended up working at Amazon warehouse for minimum wage, walking and like plucking items off the shelf, right? And nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with honest, just like labor, right? But in the moment, man, like that was a big drop for me, right? But I needed it, man. It like put me back into reality, right? And even in those moments, I was like, I'm gonna learn to be happy. And Eckhart Tolle, if you haven't heard of Eckhart Tolle, he wrote a book called The Power of Now, which is a book just about being present, right? In the moment. And one of the first things he encourages us to do is have acceptance. Just accept where you're at, right? And so I started to do that. I just accepted where I was. I'm just going to accept this. Here's where I'm at, okay? And when we accept, then we can start to move. It takes that, remember that cognitive dissonance I was talking about? It lessens that distance. It brings us back to where we actually are versus like living in some fantasy, right? Oh, I should be living in San Diego on the beach in a mansion. Back to like, no, I'm right here, dude. I'm in a fucking house that I'm paying rent in, and I got kids pissing all over the floor, and whatever, right? Like, but that's where I'm at. Let me figure that out right now. Let me accept that with happiness right now. Let me find some gratitude with that right now. And it started to change my energy, right? Literally started to change my energy, my vibration, if you believe in that kind of stuff, right? Like my vibration, my frequency. And by doing that, I started to attract different things in. And the next thing you know, opportunities started coming my way. People, hey, you want to do this? Hey, how about this? You want to do this thing? And pretty soon I created a new business. I started transitioning from all that experience that I had gained from being a high level personal trainer into healing, and also starting to feel better, and then pretty soon starting to help other people so they could heal as well, right? And now, bringing this kind of full circle, I live in the same house, much different life, like story and scenario. Like I'm doing different stuff. I'm helping people once again in some beautiful ways. And, I feel grateful that I'm here. Like I literally love where I live. Like I live right next to a beautiful park. There's trees all around. I wake up in the morning, I sit outside in the sunlight, the fresh air, my feet on the ground. I take my kids to the field, we play catch. Like same house, and also same city. And the thing about it is, like I stayed in this city, and that was a beautiful gift, a beautiful blessing, because I have connections here. And it takes years to establish connections, right? And so as an example, when I started doing my breath work, I had people that already knew me, already trusted me, already wanted to work with me. Doing the men's retreat, people who already know me, who already trust me, who want to work with me, and people that I can easily bring in to help the experience, to help, other teachers to help teach these people through this experience, right? So all those resources that I overlooked at one point now are connected, right? Now are blossoming. And so the message here is to learn to be happy right now and create a foundation of gratitude, connect to the people that are already around you, do what you can right now to create that happiness. Ram Dass, who is a beautiful spiritual teacher, guru, who's since passed on, says, wherever you are, there you are. Right? It's like you can go on vacation, go to Hawaii, do that, go for 10 days in Hawaii. And at first you'll feel pretty good, but pretty soon you're going to be right where you are. Wherever you are, there you are. You're still going to feel your frustrations, your unhappiness, your anxieties, right? So learn to unpack those things now. Learn to deal with them in this moment. And doing so blossoms our life. We learn what it feels like to create happiness. It's something that we choose to create. We take responsibility for our life. We pull it in towards us. And literally, use me as your example, same house, same situation, completely different perspective and different life. So I want you to experience this too. If happiness is something that you're struggling with, I totally get it. I was there for years. Acceptance, accept where you're at, and just start doing the little things to find gratitude. Whatever they are, as small as they may feel like right now, just find that gratitude. And I believe that momentum will start to help you. You'll start to move in a different direction. And before long, your life will look completely different. I love you so much. I'm sharing this from my heart because I believe in us. I believe in the we. I believe in this together, the togetherness of us. We need each other. All right. So do me a favor, smash that like button, subscribe. That'll help out, and share this with somebody else who might benefit from this message. Until next time, y'all. Peace.